Welcome dear students. In this lecture we are going to discuss the alkyl groups in detail. Alkyl groups are basically the derived groups which are derived from the alkanes. My dear students, you know alkanes are very inert. They are also called as the paraffins. They are not much reactive, but if you want to make the alkanes reactive, then there is an option, and that option is that remove one hydrogen from any carbon of the alkane, then it will become reactive in the form of the alkyl groups. So alkanes, they have general formula RH. When one hydrogen is removed from the alkanes, we get the alkyl group having symbol R, and this bond, this line shows the unsatisfied bond, means there will be one unshared electron with any one carbon atom from which you have removed the hydrogen atom. The formula of alkane is CnH2n plus 2, but after removing one hydrogen, the formula of the alkyl will be CnH2n plus 1. Now, starting from the simplest alkane, my dear students, that is basically methane. When you will remove one hydrogen atom from methane, then you will get a group which will be called as the methyl group. So, from methane, you will get methyl. Similarly, the second alkane is the having two carbons. It is ethane. In ethane, both the carbons are basically the primary or 1-degree carbons, means these are the carbons which are directly attached to only one carbon atom. So a carbon which is directly attached to only one carbon, that is called as the 1-degree or primary carbon. So both these carbons are same, they are primary carbons. You can remove hydrogen from any of these two, and when you will remove hydrogen from any one of these two, you will get this alkyl group, which is basically called as the ethyl group. And my dear students, the hydrogen which are attached to the primary carbon, they are called as the primary hydrogen. So in this example, all these 6 hydrogens will be the primary hydrogens and the 2 carbons will be the primary carbons. Now let us move towards the third alkane, which is basically 3 carbon alkane, propane. Now, my dear students, propane has two types of carbons. The terminal carbons, they are 1-degree carbons as they are directly attached to only one carbon atom. This is directly attached to this, and this one is also directly attached to only one carbon. But the central carbon is secondary or 2-degree carbon, because this carbon is directly attached to the two carbon atoms. So a carbon directly attached to only one is primary, and a carbon directly attached to two, that is the secondary. These 6 hydrogens will be the primary hydrogens, and these 2 hydrogens will be the secondary hydrogens. The same designation is given to the hydrogens as that of the carbon. Now it means there will be two options. Option number 1, remove hydrogen from any of the primary, because both primary are same. So remove hydrogen from any of these primary carbons, you will get this one. You can remove hydrogen from this carbon or the other, it makes no difference. So that will be called as the N propyl or normal propyl. But if you will remove hydrogen from the secondary carbon like this, now that will be called as the secondary propyl or isopropyl. In case of propyl, there will be no difference between secondary and iso. That will be secondary propyl or isopropyl. Now moving towards the next alkane, that is butane. Dear students, butane has two isomers. One is the N-butane. Let us first discuss the alkyl groups of the N-butane, mean butyl. Primary carbons, these two. and these two are the secondary carbons. If you will give numbering to these carbon atoms, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you will start numbering from the other side, this carbon will be 1, it will be 2, it will be 3, and it will be 4. It means that this carbon can be 1 or 4. In the same way, this carbon can also be 1 or 4. So both these carbons are same. This can be 2 or 3, and it can also be 3 or 2. So both these, they are also same. So if we will remove hydrogen from any of the terminal carbons, if hydrogen is removed from any terminal carbon, then such kind of butyl will be called as N-butyl. But my dear students, if you will remove hydrogen from any secondary carbon like this, now this will be called as secondary butyl, but it cannot be called as the isobutyl, because in case of butyl, secondary and iso both are different from each other. Now this was the first isomer of the butane, N-butane. The second isomer of the butane is isobutane. How many types of carbon this isobutane has? It has three 1-degree carbons directly attached to only one carbon, and one 3-degree carbon which is directly attached to the three carbon atoms. It means isobutane will also be giving us the two alkyl groups. If you will remove from any of these primary carbons, suppose that a structure like this, if you remove hydrogen from any of these primary carbons, then this one will be called as, my dear students, isobutyl. Isobutyl is basically a primary butyl because you have removed the hydrogen from a primary carbon. But secondary butyl is a secondary butyl, a 2-degree butyl, as the hydrogen is removed from the 2-degree carbon. So in case of propyl, both are same, but in case of butyl, both are different. Secondary butyl is the butyl produced when you remove one hydrogen from the secondary carbon of the normal butane. And isobutyl is the butyl produced when you remove one hydrogen from the primary carbon of the isobutane. And removing the hydrogen from the tertiary carbon, now that will be simply 3-degree butyl or tertiary butyl. So that will be called as the tertiary butyl. So butyl is of four types: normal butyl, secondary butyl, isobutyl, and tertiary butyl. Now, my dear students, let us move to the next one, that is the pentane. Pentane has three isomers. This one is N-pentane. Now, it has how many types of carbons? These two are primary carbons. These two are secondary carbons. These three are the secondary carbons actually. Now, my dear students, if you will start numbering, it will be carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you can also number them as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, dear students, the terminal carbons are same. Either they will get number 1 or 5. And these two carbons are also same, either 2 or 4. But this one is a secondary carbon, but it is different from these two carbons in the sense of the numbering. So it means there are total 3 types of the carbons in the N-pentane. Uh, 2 are the primary, These two are the equivalent secondary, and this one is another secondary which is not equivalent to the other two carbon atoms. So there will be options of the 3 pentyl here. First, remove hydrogen from any of the terminal carbons, then you will get obviously n pentyl. When you will be removing hydrogen either from this carbon or this, which are equivalent, you will get CH3, CH, CH2, CH2, CH3. Now this one is a secondary pentyl. But my dear students, this secondary pentyl is basically a two secondary pentyl because you have removed hydrogen from the carbon number 2. In case of this one, CH3, CH2, CH, CH2, and CH3. If you will remove hydrogen from this carbon, which is different from other two secondary carbons with respect to numbering, that will also be a secondary pentyl. But my dear students, that will be called as the 3 secondary pentyl. So normal pentane will give you 3 types of the pentyl. One is the n pentyl, 2 secondary pentyl, and 3 secondary pentyl. My dear students, what will be the next option? Before discussing that, I will give you a concept that ethane has formula C2H6 and ethyl will be having C2H5. Similarly, propane has C3H8 and both propyls they will be having C3H7. The butane, either N-butane or isobutane, they have formula C4H10. And all butyls, the 4 butyls, they will be having formula C4H9. Similarly, N-pentane or any pentane is C5H12 and all the pentyls they will be having formula C5H11, mean one hydrogen less as compared to their parent alkane. And my dear students, keep one thing in your mind that the pentyl was once commonly also called as the amyl. So whenever you see the word amyl in the book of the organic chemistry, that is basically pentyl because amyl is another common name of the pentyl. Now let us discuss the remaining pentyl groups. The second isomer of the pentane is CH3, CH3, CH2 and CH3. That is isopentane. How many types of carbon it has? It has 3 1-degree carbons, 1 2-degree carbon and 1 3-degree carbon. It means this will also be showing the 3 or 4 different types of the pentyl groups. Now, this carbon will be the carbon number 1 as it is nearest to the substituent. That will be carbon number 2, this will be carbon number 3 and this will be carbon number 4. Now, in this case, you cannot start numbering from this side because the numbering is started from the end of the chain where it is near to the substituent. As the substituent is present on second carbon, so numbering will start from this side. Now, let us first remove hydrogen from the tertiary carbon. That is the simplest one. CH3C, CH3, CH2, CH3. My dear students, that is tertiary pentyl or tertiary amyl because you have removed hydrogen from the tertiary carbon atom. Now, if you will remove hydrogen from the carbon number 1, like this, it will be called as the isopentyl. pentyl when the hydrogen is removed from carbon number 1. If you will remove hydrogen from carbon number 4, this one, it is also a primary carbon, it will be called as the active pentyl or active amyl group. And now if you will remove from this secondary one, from the secondary carbon, then that will be called as the secondary isopentyl. So these are the one, two, three, four types from the isopentane. The three types are from the normal pentane, and the last isomer of the pentane, that is very simple. It is neopentane. Neopentane has all these equivalent carbons which are 1 degree carbons, and one is the 4 degree or quaternary carbon. The 4 degree carbon has no hydrogen, so there cannot be any pentyl group from this carbon. All these carbons, they are same, so remove hydrogen from any one of these. This one will be the neopentyl. So how many types of pentyl are there? N-pentyl, 2 secondary pentyl, 3 secondary pentyl, then that is tertiary pentyl, isopentyl, active amyl or active pentyl. This is secondary isopentyl and neopentyl. So my dear students, pentyl is total of 8 types. So one is the methyl, second one ethyl. Then there are two types of the propyl, iso and normal propyl. Then the butyl is of 4 types. Then pentyl is of 8 types. So these will be total of 4 butyl, 8 pentyl, 12, and 2 propyl, 14, 1 ethyl, 15, and 1 methyl, 16. These are the 16 most important alkyl groups that you will be often seeing in your organic chemistry book. I hope so that the lecture will be useful for you. If in case of any query, please ask in the comment section. I will answer that. Till then, take care.